Ahoy, members of the court. All right, is that what we decided? I don't remember. Let's keep watching Rotterdam and we'll figure it out. There has been news lately about cruise ship cancellations. Well, not just lately, not really a new thing, but there was Disney Wish and then Carnival Firenze, Move Forward, Star of the Seas, and Sun Princess, and I'm sure a few others here and there that I'm not remembering, and people like to talk about it. Well, that's what I'm going to do. First, a little bit about why this is happening, and it has to do with the whole corporate mindset. You see, these corporations are drowning in data and telemetry about the shipbuilding process in particular, and they use that to feed a giant number of project management applications that kind of roll up into one, and that's totally fine. The thing is, these software systems are becoming so sophisticated and so precise that they are probably timing things months and months out, 8 or 9 months out, down to the hour. And, well, just an hour? Well, you see, in shipbuilding, an hour is meaningful because that's when high tide is, and there are things during this process that do depend on tides. So they're probably planning around that. But a problem with such precision is, well, what is the so-called butterfly effect. Little changes early on in the schedule can have wild outcomes when, the little robot goes through and crunches the numbers all the way out to some event that's going to happen a year, 2 years, 3 years out. And in this case, something like that probably happened. In this case, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a piece of machinery or a shipload of machinery from Korea or Japan that was intended to transit the Red Sea. But because the world is falling apart, thanks Joe Biden, they can't take the shortcut and, well, have to take the long way around. Thus, well, there you go. That eats up all their buffer time and delays 2 years out. Well, 18 months or whenever. So how can the cruise lines deal with this uncertainty? It's very easy. Instead of having one inaugural sailing, you have more inaugural sailings. All right, hear me out. You have an inaugural sailing, a christening sailing, and a naming sailing. So the theme of the inaugural sailing, which would be the first revenue sailing, we get that, press, travel agents, all those people, that's fine. But the theme of the inaugural sailing would be a charity event centered around the first guest too. So you auction off, activities, and you let people be the first guest down the water slides, up the rock climbing wall, the first picture with the captain, all these kinds of things. And you do it for a nice charitable cause. No, your foundation doesn't really count. Maybe something, okay, you know what? If it's ocean-based, that's fine. Coral, marine life, saving the seals. It's all good. There you go. You did a good deed, you raised some money, and everyone's happy. You probably would have to embargo a lot of social media content just to make it even more special, but that shouldn't be a problem. Just one bit of advice. Don't trust the TikTokers. Then the christening cruise would be champagne themed with, champagne everywhere. And the shtick for this one might be complimentary champagne in the dining room every night. Only in the dining room, that's fine, but it has to be every night. Okay, don't cheap out on this one. You could even rig up some contraption where the guests could swing a balloon filled with sparkling wine or champagne against the hull, of course, for charity. And you know what? If they hit a target, maybe they win a nice prize. And listen, don't worry about the fish getting drunk. We party on the water here in Miami. Don't worry about it. They'll be fine. They'll probably enjoy it. Then there would be the naming cruise. Now, unfortunately, you can't really have a contest to name the ship since everyone will already be on board. But you could have a contest for naming the next ship or the next class of ship or something like that. But the shtick for this one would be when all of the merchandise drops. Now, yes, you would have to have some for the inaugural, but depending on which comes first, the christening or this one, the naming cruise is when all of the merch will drop. So yeah, that's how you get people on this one. So how would this all work? Okay, you take the first 5 weeks of when the ship is supposed to be ready, and let's just take the theoretical case of, scheduled 7-day cruises. So you got 5 weeks to work with. All right, you start selling these 3 cruises during that 5 weeks, but you're very upfront with everybody. Let them know ahead of time. You don't know exactly when this is going to be. It's going to be during this 5 weeks, but the date could change, and it could change up to a month before sailing. Now, believe me, the people who are going to book this stuff, if you tell them up front, they'll be totally fine with it. People who are going to book the inaugural, the naming, and the christening sailing, probably not planning their entire vacation around it, or even if they are, probably have the flexibility to work with that. So don't worry about it. You sell these 3 cruises during that 5 weeks, and if something happens to the schedule and you have to move it up a week or back by 2 weeks, then you just do it. Nobody is affected because they kind of knew this was going to happen. Everybody gets their inaugural, everybody gets their christening, and everyone gets their naming sailing, and yeah, it's just win for everybody. Now, I can already hear the bean counters, wailing and moaning. Oh, but that's going to mean there's 2 or 3 weeks of sailings that we're not going to be able to sell. I don't think you really have to worry about that. At the rate some of these cruises are selling out, and we're seeing this with Icon of the Seas, I think if you announce those that new availability, it's going to be gone within, probably within a few weeks. And, God forbid the sales team would have to do their job. However, every fantastic plan is not without a couple of potential pitfalls, and I get it. One would be the godmother or godfather, and these celebrities who think that their time is so much more important than everyone else's, and they might not be available during a 3-week stint for the naming or christening cruise wherever you want to put them. Well, that's actually fairly easy to solve. You just have 2 or 3 lined up. Don't tell anybody until you got the schedule set, and then I guess the first available is the one who gets it. Or just, pick some retired celebrity, retired beloved celebrity that, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to say has nothing better to do, but also has the flexibility in their calendar to be the godmother or godfather. Did I say father? Godfather, whenever they get the call. Oh, and yes, that means the first absolutely 100% guaranteed no cancel sailing would be the 6th expected week. And so if anybody needs that absolute 100%, slot, there you go. Week 6, that's when they book, and everyone's good to go. So there you go. There is your solution to this problem where everybody wins. Everybody gets their inaugural naming or christening cruise. You guys get to sell, probably at a higher cost, all these special cruises. And if the schedule changes this way or that way, you know what? It's all good because everybody knows what they're getting into. Oh, and you could also use this as an inducement to book the airfare through the cruise line. There you go. Even more money for you. How is that? Well, would you book a inaugural christening or naming cruise? If somebody takes my advice and we book it together, I'll see you on board.